Last thing, there's one more question on the sheet that you're going to do, which is like an extra bit at the end, but I'm sure many of you will want to know how to do it. So here's an example coming up of how you would deal with questions like that last one. I'm going to introduce cat food to help us understand it. So here's a massive box of cat food. I want you to imagine this is just an enormous, like the biggest one the supermarket sells. This is an enormous box of cat food. How long will that last for? It's enormous, after all. Now, there's various factors that will help us decide how long this will last for. Probably, though, the most important thing was, well, how many cats have you got? How many cats are going to be eating this food? If you've only got a couple of cats, it might last quite a long time. If you've got 50 cats at home, it probably doesn't last very long at all. So I hope it makes sense to you that the number one thing that helps us to answer that question, how long will this last, is just how many cats have you got? And in fact, this graph answers that question. For that big old box of food, I've got the number of cats that you own along the bottom on the x-axis and how long the supply will last in days up on the y-axis. So let's look up some numbers just out of curiosity, see what happens. So what if you had 4 cats? So the graph is telling us if you've got 4 cats, the food will last for 9 days. So it's easy to use the graph in the same kind of way. So even though this is not a nice straight line, it's still easy to use the graph. So 4 cats, it would last for 9 days. And what if you had more cats? How about what if you had 12 cats? Now the graph is telling us that it would only last 3 days. And I think that does actually make sense because to get from 4 cats to 12 cats, well, that's 3 times as many cats. And if you've got 3 times as many cats eating the food, it'll only last 1/3 of the time that it did before. So this is an inverse proportion situation. As one number goes up, the other number goes down. So if you've got more cats, the food doesn't last as long. The more cats there are, the fewer days it lasts. I think that makes sense, but it is a harder situation to try to wrap your head around. There is one more little twist here. When it's an inverse proportion situation, something stays the same, but something is different about the equation. So if I want to find the equation of this graph, it's no longer y equals a number times by x. It's no longer k times x. It's y equals a number divided by x instead, which again is probably not that surprising because as one number gets bigger, the other gets smaller, and that happens with division, doesn't it? If you divide by a bigger number, you get a lower answer. So it's much like before. It's still looking up the number 1, but it's now k divided by x instead. We've got a slight problem though. If I try looking up from 1 on the x-axis, it misses the graph completely. Can you see that? So I'm trying to look up 1, but it doesn't miss. It does actually hit the graph eventually, but it's off the edge of the screen. It's much higher up. So I can't easily tell when this line hits the graph, but no problems. 1 on the x-axis is 1 cat, isn't it? So I just need to work out how long would it last if I had 1 cat. That would be my value of k. So for inverse proportion, it's k divided by x. I need to look up 1, but I can't. So let's use something we knew from before. We knew that 4 cats, if you've got 4 cats, it lasts 9 days. But I want to know what if I only had 1 cat. Well, 1 cat is a quarter of the amount of cats. So surely it will last longer. It will last 4 times longer. It will last for 36 days. 9 times 4 is 36. So if it lasts 36 days for 1 cat, my k is 36, and I have that the equation of this graph is y equals 36 divided by x. And that's the answer to the question, by the way. Where does this vertical line eventually hit the graph? It would hit it up at 36, which is higher than 20, so it's off the edge of the screen, but it does hit the graph eventually. It doesn't just miss forever.